"Sir, I think you gave it to the wrong person." The words escaped before Jalen Morris even realized he was running. His backpack slammed against his shoulders as he sprinted across the marble lobby of the downtown public library, weaving past startled visitors and rows of silent bookshelves. The man he was calling after never turned around. Instead, he stepped into a black SUV. The door closed with a soft click, and within seconds the vehicle disappeared into the afternoon traffic. Jalen slowed to a stop, breathing hard. In his right hand was a navy blue U.S. passport. In his left was a folded scrap of paper that had slipped from between its pages. Only 4 characters were written on it. 11:40 p.m. Nothing else. No name. No address. No explanation. The air conditioning hummed quietly around him, yet somehow the room felt warmer than before. A librarian approached, lowering her voice. "Did someone lose that?" Jalen nodded. "I think so." She smiled politely and returned to her desk, but before she reached it she paused, looked back toward the front doors where the SUV had vanished, and frowned. "Strange," she whispered almost to herself. That man didn't look anything like the photo. Jalen glanced down at the passport. The picture showed a distinguished man in his 50s with silver hair, calm blue eyes, and the name Michael Donovan beneath the image. The man who had driven away had been younger, darker-haired, with a trimmed beard and an expensive charcoal coat. Maybe the librarian had simply mistaken him. Maybe the photo was old. People changed. He slipped the passport carefully into his backpack instead of handing it over. Something about the tiny note bothered him more than the missing document. 11:40 tonight. It felt less like a reminder and more like a deadline. Outside, rain began tapping softly against the library windows. Jalen walked toward the information desk and asked whether anyone had reported a lost passport. The librarian searched for nearly a minute before shaking her head. "Nothing yet." "Could you hold it if nobody comes?" he asked. "Of course." But before Jalen could unzip his backpack, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. He hesitated, then answered. A calm male voice filled the line. "My name is Nathan Pierce. I believe you found something that belongs to me." Jalen looked through the rain-speckled glass doors. Across the street stood a tall man holding a black umbrella, watching the library without moving. "You're looking at me, aren't you?" Jalen asked quietly. The man smiled without waving. "I'm simply hoping you'll do the right thing." Jalen's fingers tightened around the passport. Before he could reply, the librarian stepped beside him again, following his gaze toward the stranger outside. Her face lost its color. "No," she whispered. "That's not the man who was carrying that passport. And if he's asking for it now." She never finished the sentence because, at that exact moment, the lights inside the library flickered once, then went completely dark. The emergency lights blinked on a heartbeat later, washing the library in a pale amber glow that made every face look uncertain. No one screamed. No one ran. Yet the silence felt heavier than the darkness that had just passed. Jalen instinctively zipped the passport into his backpack. Across the street, the man beneath the umbrella had not moved an inch. He simply lifted his phone to his ear. Jalen's own phone vibrated at the same moment. "Power outages happen," Nathan Pierce said with calm confidence. "There is no reason to make this more complicated than it needs to be." Jalen glanced toward the librarian. She was watching him now, her expression no longer polite, but deeply uneasy. "If it is really yours," Jalen replied carefully, "tell me the full name inside the passport." A brief pause followed, just long enough to feel wrong. "Michael," Nathan answered. "Michael Pierce." Jalen's heartbeat skipped. He had read the name only moments ago. It was Michael Donovan. Nathan recovered quickly with a quiet laugh. "Forgive me. Long day. I have several passports for business travel." The explanation landed softly, but something inside Jalen refused to settle. "I think I should turn it in through the proper channels," he said. Nathan's tone cooled by a fraction. "Young man, sometimes the proper channel only creates unnecessary problems." The call ended before Jalen could answer. Outside, the umbrella folded shut. Nathan stepped into another waiting vehicle and disappeared again. The librarian let out a slow breath. "I have worked here almost 20 years, she said. "People panic over a lost passport. They do not smile." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "And they certainly do not guess the wrong last name." Before Jalen could respond, the front doors opened. 2 uniformed police officers walked inside. Every conversation in the lobby seemed to stop at once. One officer approached the circulation desk, while the other quietly scanned the room. Jalen felt his stomach tighten. Had Nathan reported the passport stolen? The older officer spoke with the librarian for less than a minute, then turned toward the exits without looking at Jalen. They left as quickly as they had arrived. They were asking about a traffic accident 3 blocks away. The librarian whispered after exhaling in relief. Nothing to do with you. Even so, the brief scare left Jalen shaken. He decided not to hand over the passport yet. Instead, he slipped out a side entrance, keeping his head down as the rain soaked the shoulders of his hoodie. Halfway to the bus stop, his backpack felt strangely heavier. He ducked beneath the awning of a closed coffee shop and opened it to make sure the passport was still there. It was, but tucked beneath it, where there had been nothing before, rested a slim black flash drive no larger than his thumb. Jalen frowned. He was certain he had never seen it. He turned it over in his palm. There were no labels, no logo, just a tiny strip of silver tape wrapped around one edge. Written across it in faded black ink were 3 words that sent a chill through him despite the warm summer rain. Do not lose this. Jalen stared at the flash drive as buses splashed through the rain, each wave of water washing over the curb without carrying away the uneasy feeling growing inside him. He slipped the tiny device back into his backpack beside the passport, zipped it shut, and headed home without looking over his shoulder. Even so, the strange certainty that someone was watching followed him through every stoplight and every storefront window. His apartment was quiet except for the ticking kitchen clock. He dried the passport carefully with a clean towel before placing it on the dining table. The folded note marked 11:40 at night rested beside it. The flash drive sat between them like a third question that refused to be ignored. After several minutes, curiosity defeated caution. Jalen plugged the drive into his old laptop. The screen blinked once before a password prompt appeared. No folders, no names, just a black window asking for credentials. He tried nothing. Whoever owned this had expected someone to find it, but not just anyone to open it. As he unplugged the drive, a breaking news alert flashed across the corner of his screen. A respected American diplomat named Michael Donovan had reportedly vanished while traveling through the city earlier that day. The photo beside the headline froze Jalen in place. It was the same face from the passport. He slowly looked back toward the document lying on the table. If Michael Donovan was missing, then who exactly had called himself Nathan Pierce? Before he could think further, his phone rang again. This time it was not an unknown number. It was the library. The librarian's voice sounded calm, but only on the surface. Jalen, someone came back asking whether a teenager had turned in a passport. I told him library policy protects visitors' privacy. She paused. He smiled the whole time. Jalen felt his grip tighten around the phone. Was it the same man? No. Her answer came immediately. Different face. Same expensive suit. Same question. A knock echoed through the apartment door before either of them spoke again. 3 slow knocks. Not loud. Not impatient. Deliberate. Jalen muted the phone and looked through the peephole. A delivery envelope rested on the welcome mat, but the hallway beyond was empty. He waited another 10 seconds before opening the door. Inside the envelope was a single business card embossed with silver lettering. Nathan Pierce. No company name. No address. Only one handwritten sentence on the back. We should solve this quietly. Jalen's pulse quickened. He had never told Nathan where he lived. The realization settled over him like cold rain. Someone had followed him all the way home. He locked the deadbolt, returned to the kitchen table, and stared once more at the passport, the mysterious time, and the unopened flash drive. Then his eyes drifted back to the television, where the anchor repeated that federal authorities were asking the public to report any information connected to Michael Donovan's disappearance. Jalen reached for his phone, his thumb hovering over the number for the local field office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Before he could press the call button, another message appeared on the screen from an unknown sender. It contained no greeting, no signature, and only 7 chilling words. They are listening. Trust no one. Jalen deleted the warning message without answering, but the words refused to disappear from his mind. They are listening. Trust no one. He locked his phone, slipped it into his pocket, and stared through the rain-speckled kitchen window. Across the parking lot, a gray sedan sat beneath a flickering street lamp. Its headlights were off, yet someone was clearly inside. Every few minutes, the faint glow of a phone lit the driver's face before fading back into darkness. Jalen pulled the curtains shut. Instead of calling anyone, he carefully wrapped the passport and the flash drive in separate clean t-shirts and tucked them into different compartments of his backpack. If someone broke in looking for one, they would not immediately find the other. It was a small decision, but for the first time that day, he stopped reacting and started thinking. Early the next morning, he skipped his usual route to school and walked 6 extra blocks before boarding a different bus. Every reflection in every storefront became another chance to check whether he was being followed. Twice he noticed the same dark blue crossover pass by at different intersections. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it was not. By lunchtime, the knot in his stomach had only tightened. He remembered one person who had always told him that fear became stronger when carried alone. Emily Foster, his former history teacher, had stayed in touch long after he graduated from her class. She had a gift for listening without rushing to conclusions. He found her shelving donated books in a neighborhood literacy center. She smiled warmly when she saw him, but the smile faded the instant she noticed his expression. "Something happened," she said quietly. Jalen hesitated before placing the wrapped flash drive on the table between them. "Can you tell me what is on this?" Emily did not reach for it immediately. Instead, she looked directly into his eyes. "Where did you get it?" "I cannot explain everything yet." She nodded once. "Fair enough." She unlocked an old desktop computer in a small office behind the reading room. The drive connected with a soft click. Another password screen appeared, but this time Emily noticed something Jalen had missed. Hidden in the corner was a tiny icon blinking every few seconds, as though the drive was waiting for something rather than rejecting them. Before either of them touched the keyboard, the office phone rang. Emily answered. Her face slowly lost its color. "Who is this?" she asked. Silence. Then the caller disconnected. A second later, her cell phone vibrated with an unfamiliar text message. It contained only one sentence. "Tell the boy to stop asking questions." Emily looked from the phone to Jalen without speaking. For the first time since they met, she seemed genuinely afraid. She unplugged the flash drive immediately and slipped it back across the desk. "You cannot stay here," she whispered. "Someone knew you were coming before you walked through that door." As they hurried toward the back exit, Jalen glanced through a narrow window facing the parking lot. The same gray sedan was rolling slowly past the building. It did not stop. It did not need to, because standing beside it, watching the literacy center with quiet patience, was Nathan Pierce, and this time he was not smiling. Emily locked the office door before pulling the blinds shut. Neither of them spoke until the gray sedan rolled out of sight beyond the narrow window. Only then did she take a slow breath and reconnect the flash drive to the old desktop computer. "If someone already knows we have this," she said softly, "running without understanding it will only make us easier to corner." The blinking icon appeared again. Emily frowned, then reached into a desk drawer and removed a small magnifying glass she normally used for repairing donated laptops. She leaned closer to the monitor. Hidden beneath the blinking symbol was a tiny line of text that was almost invisible. "Offline access available." She disconnected the internet cable from the computer before clicking it. The password screen vanished. Instead of financial records or classified government files, dozens of video thumbnails filled the screen. Every clip showed a different person sitting in a plane room, looking directly into the camera. A tired truck driver, a nurse, a retired school custodian, a young mother holding a child's drawing. None of them looked powerful. None of them looked dangerous. One by one, they spoke about the same thing. Years earlier, people had disappeared from shelters, bus stations, and neighborhoods that few reporters ever visited. Faces, dates, places. They described seeing the same transportation company, the same warehouses, the same unanswered questions. Jalen felt the room grow impossibly still. These were not rumors. They were eyewitness testimonies, carefully recorded and organized. Emily pressed pause after only a few minutes. Her hands trembled slightly. "Whoever collected this spent years earning these people's trust," she whispered. "This is not random evidence." Before Jalen could answer, someone knocked gently on the front door of the literacy center. Once, twice, then silence. Emily peeked through the security camera monitor. Nathan Pierce stood alone on the sidewalk with both hands visible, his expensive coat damp from the afternoon rain. He made no attempt to enter. He simply waited. I should hear what he wants, Jalen said. Emily grabbed his arm. Or he wants you to think exactly that. Nathan remained outside for nearly a full minute before placing a sealed envelope on the welcome mat and walking away without looking back. They waited until his card disappeared before retrieving it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. There were no threats, no demands, only one sentence written in careful handwriting. Those videos will destroy innocent lives if they become public. Jalen read it twice. The words unsettled him because they sounded less like intimidation and more like a warning. Was Nathan trying to protect himself or someone else? Emily folded the letter without speaking. The certainty she had shown only an hour earlier had begun to crack. Then another file on the screen caught Jalen's attention. Unlike the witness recordings, it carried no title, only a timestamp. 11:40 at night. The exact time written on the folded note inside the passport. He moved the cursor toward it, but before he could press play, every video on the screen vanished at once. A black background replaced them, followed by a single white sentence that neither of them had typed. You opened it too early. Now they know where to find you. The words on the black screen remained frozen for several long seconds before the monitor abruptly shut itself down. Emily reached for the power button, but the computer was already dead. Neither of them moved. The silence inside the literacy center felt louder than the traffic outside. Jalen slowly removed the flash drive, holding it as though it had become heavier in his hand. We cannot stay here, Emily whispered. Not another minute. They left through the rear exit and walked separately for nearly a block before meeting again in a small neighborhood park where children laughed on distant swings, completely unaware that two strangers sat on opposite ends of the same bench pretending not to know each other. Emily spoke without looking at him. You should give the drive to federal investigators. Jalen nodded. That was already my plan. She handed him a folded card with the address of the nearest Federal Bureau of Investigation field office. Walk in. Tell them everything. Do not leave anything out. The certainty in her voice steadied him. For the first time since finding the passport, there seemed to be one clear path forward. An hour later, Jalen stood inside the modern glass lobby of the federal building. Security officers checked his identification, scanned his backpack, and escorted him into a quiet interview room. Across the table sat a composed special agent who listened without interrupting while Jalen carefully placed the passport, the folded note marked 11:40 at night, and the flash drive in front of him. The agent examined each item with measured attention, but revealed almost nothing. When Jalen finished speaking, the room fell silent. Finally, the agent leaned back and folded his hands. You have done the responsible thing by bringing these here, he said. Now I need you to do one more thing. What is that? Jalen asked. Wait. The answer landed with unexpected weight. Wait. Leave these with us. Do not contact anyone connected to this. Do not answer unfamiliar calls. And whatever happens next, tell no one you came here today. Jalen searched the agent's face for reassurance, but found only careful restraint. Can you at least tell me if Michael Donovan is alive? The agent looked toward the closed door before answering. I cannot. It was not a denial. It was somehow worse. As Jalen prepared to leave, another agent quietly entered the room and whispered something into his colleague's ear. Both men exchanged a brief glance that Jalen could not read. The first agent slid the passport and the flash drive back across the table instead of keeping them. Take these with you, he said. Jalen stared in disbelief. I thought you wanted them. Plans have changed. Because of me? Because someone else arrived before you did. Jalen felt the room tilt beneath him. Outside the building, he noticed two unfamiliar vehicles parked on opposite sides of the street. Neither displayed government plates. Neither driver looked away when he stepped onto the sidewalk. His phone vibrated. A photograph appeared from another unknown number. It showed the front porch of Emily Foster's house. The timestamp beneath the image read 11:38 at night, 2 minutes before the time written inside the passport. Jalen did not waste a second. He turned away from the federal building and ran toward the nearest subway entrance, his pulse matching the countdown in his mind. 11:38. Whatever the photograph meant, he could not ignore it. Emily had believed him when almost no one else had. He refused to leave her alone. By the time he reached her quiet neighborhood, porch lights had begun glowing across the street. The evening looked ordinary enough to fool anyone passing by, yet every parked car suddenly seemed suspicious. Emily's house stood exactly as he remembered it. No broken windows. No signs of panic. Just silence. He hurried up the front walk and froze. Resting neatly on the welcome mat was the same silver business card Nathan Pierce had left before. This time there was no envelope, only one handwritten sentence. "You are almost out of time." Jalen knocked hard. Emily opened the door before he could knock again. She looked startled, but unharmed. "Why are you here?" she asked. He held up his phone with the photograph. Her expression changed instantly. "Come inside." The living room lights remained off. Emily drew the curtains before speaking. "Someone has been driving past this house since sunset." She reached into a desk drawer and removed a small metal key attached to an old library card. "There is something I never told you." Before Jalen could answer, headlights swept across the front windows. A vehicle slowed outside, then continued down the block. Emily closed her eyes for a moment, as though deciding whether to carry a burden she had hidden for years. "The flash drive was never supposed to reach you," she said quietly. "Years ago, someone asked me to keep it safe if anything ever happened to him. I failed." Jalen stared at her. "You knew about it?" She nodded, shame flickering across her face. Not what was inside, only that it mattered enough for honest people to risk everything protecting it. She unlocked a narrow wooden cabinet and removed an old notebook filled with names, dates, and phone numbers. Tucked between the pages was a faded photograph of Michael Donovan standing beside several community volunteers. Emily pointed to the picture with trembling fingers. He was never just a diplomat. He spent years quietly helping witnesses who everyone else ignored. Jalen looked from the photograph to the passport in his backpack. Then why did Nathan want everyone to believe the passport belonged to him? Before Emily could respond, Jalen's phone rang again. This time the screen displayed a number that the federal agent had written on a card only hours earlier. He answered immediately. The same calm voice spoke much faster than before. "Listen carefully. Nathan Pierce is not Michael Donovan. He never was. He used a false identity because he believed he could recover something before the wrong people reached you. We could not explain earlier because we did not know who was watching." Jalen's heart pounded. Every assumption he had carried since the library shifted beneath his feet. The smiling businessman, the confusing warnings, even the agent's hesitation suddenly carried a different weight. The voice continued. "Michael Donovan has been under protective isolation. The passport was never the real target. The flash drive is." Jalen looked toward Emily, who had already understood the truth from his expression alone. Then the agent spoke the words that changed everything. "Whatever you do, do not hand that drive to Nathan Pierce. But if he asks to meet you tonight at exactly 11:40, go. We finally know why he wants you there, and we are counting on your decision to expose everyone still hiding in the shadows." Jalen slipped the flash drive into the inside pocket of his jacket and looked at Emily one last time before stepping back into the night. "You do not have to do this alone," she said quietly. He managed a faint smile. "I am not doing it alone anymore." Those words surprised even him. For hours he had believed every stranger was an enemy and every answer another trap. Now, for the first time, he understood that trust was not about certainty. It was about choosing the right people when certainty was impossible. At exactly 11:40, Jalen arrived beneath the old clock tower beside the nearly empty commuter station where the folded note had silently pointed from the beginning. The platform was calm except for the distant rumble of a departing train. Nathan Pierce stood alone beneath the overhead lights, his hands visible and his expression unusually tired. "You came," he said. Jalen did not move closer. "You lied about the passport." Nathan lowered his eyes. "Yes." The admission came without hesitation. "Because if I had told you the truth that day, neither of us would have made it this far." Before Jalen could answer, headlights swept across the station entrance. Two dark vehicles rolled slowly to the curb. Nathan glanced toward them and quietly shook his head. "They are early." Instead of reaching for the flash drive, he stepped in front of Jalen, placing himself between the teenager and the arriving vehicles. "Listen carefully," Nathan said. "I worked security for Michael Donovan years ago. When witnesses began disappearing, I made the worst mistake of my career. I trusted the wrong people. Everything that happened afterwards started with that failure." His voice carried no excuses, only regret. "The only reason I chased you was because I believed I could fix what I broke before anyone else found the evidence." The station speakers crackled overhead, announcing an arriving train that never appeared. Seconds later, several plainclothes federal agents emerged from different directions, moving with quiet precision. Nathan slowly raised both hands without being asked. One agent approached Jalen first. "Do you still have the drive?" Jalen nodded, but did not remove it. "Not until I know where it belongs." The agent looked at him for a long moment before answering. "That is exactly why Michael Donovan insisted we find you before anyone else influenced your decision." A black SUV pulled into the station entrance. The rear door opened. An older man with silver hair stepped out, dressed simply in a navy jacket instead of the formal suit Jalen had imagined from the passport photograph. Michael Donovan crossed the platform without hurry, his calm blue eyes settling on Jalen. "You protected something you did not even understand," he said gently. "Most adults would not have done that." Jalen handed him the flash drive. Michael did not pocket it. Instead, he passed it directly to the lead federal agent in full view of everyone present. "No more hiding," he said. "Release every protected testimony through the proper legal channels. Every witness who trusted us deserves the truth to finally reach daylight." Nathan closed his eyes briefly, as though a burden he had carried for years had finally become visible to everyone instead of remaining his alone. As federal agents escorted him toward a waiting vehicle, he turned back to Jalen. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Not for believing me, for refusing to." Before Jalen could respond, Emily arrived at the edge of the platform carrying the old notebook from her cabinet. She held it tightly against her chest before looking at Michael. "There is one more thing you need to see," she said, and from the weight in her voice, Jalen realized the final chapter of this story had not yet been written. Emily opened the worn notebook with careful hands, as though the paper itself could still be frightened. Inside were years of handwritten names, forgotten addresses, dates scribbled beside bus routes, shelters, and community centers. Some pages carried small check marks. Others ended with question marks that had never been answered. Michael Donovan studied the notebook in silence before lifting his eyes toward Emily. "You kept all of this?" Emily nodded, her voice barely audible. "I was afraid to come forward when I should have. Every year I told myself I would do it tomorrow." Michael closed the notebook gently instead of questioning her. "Then today is tomorrow." He handed it to the lead federal agent beside him. Around the platform, more agents quietly collected the remaining evidence. There were no dramatic speeches, no flashing cameras, only professionals moving with calm purpose while the first light of dawn slowly softened the sky beyond the station tracks. Nathan Pierce remained nearby under supervision, his shoulders lower than they had been all night. For the first time, the guarded confidence that had followed him since the beginning was gone. Michael walked over to him. Neither man spoke for several long seconds. Finally, Nathan lowered his head. "I spent years trying to erase one terrible decision," he said. "Instead, I kept creating new lies." Michael answered with quiet honesty rather than anger. "You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you finally stopped protecting yourself more than the truth." Nathan gave a faint nod and willingly stepped toward the waiting agents without resistance. Watching him leave, Jalen realized that redemption rarely looked triumphant. Sometimes it looked like a man choosing to stop running. Over the following weeks, the witness recordings were entered into the proper legal process, and long-delayed investigations quietly reopened. Families who had spent years wondering finally received phone calls they had almost given up hoping for. Some found answers. Others simply found the dignity of knowing that someone had listened after all. Emily volunteered to help organize the testimony, determined that no voice would disappear into another forgotten file cabinet. One afternoon, Michael invited Jalen to his office. There was no oversized check waiting on the desk, no expensive gift, no television crew. Instead, Michael placed a simple folder in front of him. Inside was an offer to join a national public service internship for students committed to community advocacy and civic leadership. Jalen looked up in surprise. "You trust me with this?" Michael smiled gently. "You earned it the moment you chose to protect strangers you had never met instead of taking the easier path." Jalen accepted the folder with both hands, understanding that the opportunity meant more than money ever could. Months later, he returned to the same downtown library where everything had begun. The front lobby looked exactly as it had before, filled with quiet conversations and turning pages. Near the entrance stood the familiar lost and found cabinet. He paused for a moment beside it. It was almost empty except for a child's blue mitten waiting patiently for its owner. Jalen smiled, left the mitten exactly where it belonged, and walked back into the afternoon sunlight, knowing that sometimes the smallest act of returning what was never yours can quietly guide countless forgotten lives back toward the light.